Rachel is the co-founder, executive director of the Zozalia Project for a clean ocean. As the executive director, she leads the program in vision, program development, and working towards achieving their mission of protecting the ocean. Rachel holds a U.S. Coast Guard 50-ton master's license and captains the 60-foot sailing research vessel American Promise, trains remotely operated vehicle pilots for Video Ray, and is a member of the U.S. Sailing Training Committee. Her academic background is in marine studies and underwater archaeology, which she studied at Brown University. She currently lives in Vermont and loves to ski as much as she loves to sail. Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you. We are cookied and coffeeed up. I have a really great boat. My boat is really great, in part thanks to some equipment from 11th Hour Racing and the main Clean Marine Diesel program, and some help from Eclectic Energy, and from some onboard practices that we employ. We have turned her into the greenest sailing research vessel in the world. And she can hold a lot of trash too, but we'll get to that in a second. I think it's important that we collectively have the equipment and the technique, resources and opportunities available for boaters, people that operate boats, to select from so that they too can have a lower footprint. But in order for system change, I also think there needs to be an overall consideration of the decision-making process and perhaps a tweak to it. And so I'm going to start with the big picture and then get to the details. So when we got American Promise, I'll tell you about her in a little bit, but we wanted to be consistent. We're a marine debris organization, and it's important for us to, well, we're up to our elbows in trash all the time. So it makes sense for us to be as low footprint as is possible with everything. And so we started to make decisions a little bit of a different way, sort of to typical, which only takes into account cost and value. So I call this the new bottom line, or the real cost value. What most people are doing is starting with, what does it cost? What does it do for us? Or what is the value? What I mean by the new bottom line, or the real cost value, is to take into account the now and the later, but also the venue or the environment. For us, the venue, of course, is the ocean, lakes, or rivers, depending on where you are. And then mission, whether that's for a nonprofit, a for-profit, a school, even a family to a level. To say, what is our mission, our collective mission, and what does a certain decision, what's the impact of that decision on all these things, not just the cost and the value. By doing that, we have found that it leads to many things. And some of the previous speakers have already talked about that. Mr. McAvoy, absolutely. He quantified in some ways the value that expanding a cost-benefit analysis to include the environment and include organizational mission can have. For us, we've seen return on investment on a lot of levels, from personnel, loyalty, respect, enthusiasm, people going out and spreading Zozalia Project's message because they feel that our values match theirs based on our decision making, to straight up stronger partnerships, donors, and the kind of elements that strengthen our organization and keep it from a longevity standpoint. And it all leads to lower footprint. I think if people and organizations make decisions like this, it's going to lead to lower footprint inevitably. So before getting to some of the details, just a little bit of background about Zozalia Project. Our mission is to clean and protect the ocean and conserve a healthy, thriving marine environment. We are an environmental organization. That's our awesome boat. It's called American Promise. She is a little piece of American sailing history. And that is because in 1985, she was built by Dodge Morgan at Little Harbor Shipyards in Marblehead. And at 54 years old, he sailed her around the world without stopping in world record time. Actually, he beat the world record by 2 months. was the first American to sail around the world alone. And he very triumphantly crossed the finish line, which was Bermuda to Bermuda, and then gave her to the Naval Sailing Foundation, to the Naval Academy. So she was used as a sail training ship for the next many years. And if you catch me over dinner, I'll tell you the story of how she sank and was raised. And don't have time for it now. But she was rebuilt, and she has been our trash hunting mothership for the last 6 years. Zozalia Project is unique in that we work on marine debris from the surface to the seafloor. So we are addressing the problem on the shoreline. We are addressing it on the surface, and we're doing that different ways through cleanup, but also we're trying to innovate techniques to make cleanup easier. This is hanging an intern off the end of our spinnaker pole in order to test a low bycatch marine debris net. So we're trying to exclude organic matter and catch plastics and man-made items. And we are working underwater as well. We don't throw anyone in, though. We use ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, to get underwater, to see what's down there, and to clean it up. This is our ROV. His name is Hector the Collector. And this is his glamour shot, actually. He's more often operating where you just saw him, which is, that's in Newport, Rhode Island, near the Newport Harbor Hotel and Marina, in a section of the waterfront, or the seafloor, where there was 41 million pieces of trash per square kilometer. And that is a whole nother talk that I would love to give sometime. But that's Hector, and that's what we use for our underwater work. But we also have been using the ROV to connect people to the underwater world right at their feet. Which brings me to the fact that we're working on marine debris from multiple angles. So we are cleaning it up. We're doing what it takes to get it out of the environment. But we're also doing prevention through education. So with the ROV and other methods, we are fully and deliberately embracing innovation and technology. So everything Gregory Marshall said makes my head explode with joy. So we're using drones as some ways to understand where marine debris is accumulating in harder to reach shorelines to help make its cleanup more efficient. And we're doing solutions-based research. All of this is happening in urban and coastal waters. So that's what Zozalia Project is doing. One of our urban water studies was a floating trash study in 10 cities. We didn't get the Gulf Coast, but 10 cities from East Coast, Chicago to West Coast. Here's in New York. And we had started out working on urban and coastal waters from the start, but we have some data to underscore why we believe that's the most efficient place to do it, not just because it is the source, 80% of marine debris coming from land, but once we did our study, we also learned that in terms of concentration, that our urban harbors can average out higher than the center of our gyres. So, in the course of picking up a whole lot of trash, this is 130,000 pieces of trash we pulled off of remote islands in the Gulf of Maine last year. None of it went to landfill. It was either upcycled, recycled, or burned for waste to energy, which was pretty cool. We realized that it's more than just about trash prevention, or about figuring out how to clean it up better. But we also needed this level of consistency and to lead where there were opportunities to lead. And one of those places is on American Promise. She was out front in the beginning, and it's been our goal to keep her out front, this case in sustainability and low footprint sailing, or low footprint research operations, at least for a boat this size. So one of the first projects we did was a repower. So this is what we started with. Some of you are like, Perkins, diesel, right? You recognize this old one? It was a black smoke belching, maybe started, maybe didn't, came with the boat from the Naval Academy. We used around 5 to 6 knots of speed was all we could get out of her unless we had a really good current with us. And we're using more than 2.5 gallons an hour. So again, thanks to some help, 11th Hour Racing and the Clean Marine Diesel program, we were able to replace her with a Tier 3 marine diesel by Steyr. This was in 2013. We did go up a little bit in horsepower. So in the interest of just full disclosure, but the performance is so much better. So now we're at up to 9 knots. Doesn't even matter what the current is unless it's really against us. And we haven't used more than 2 gallons an hour yet with it, no matter what. In addition, and it's something that's come up a bunch, is for a diesel, it's just the lowest noise, the lowest vibration, and a huge reduction in emissions compared to the other diesels out there. It was my desire to have an electric engine. That's what I really wanted, an electric engine on Promise. And we did a lot of research. And we are 3 times the length and 20 times the weight of the Green Dream boat, for example. We are a 72,000-pound boat, 60 foot long, and we simply, with our safety requirements, which in this case were absolutely the first criteria, we could not justify any of the electric engines or hybrid situations that were available to us 2 years ago. So I can't wait to hear more development on the electric engine side. For now, I've been very, very pleased with the performance of our Tier 3 diesel. And that combines with our house tank power means that I hope in the next year or two to throw our generator off the boat. So at least I can do that. Our house bank needs are probably a little higher than an average cruising boat because we are mission-based. We have the ROV running, we have drone batteries and computers and cameras, plus all of our normal navigation equipment that needs to run off the house bank. And so last year, we installed solar, wind, and hydro onto American Promise. So here it is from the side. 430-watt solar panels, 2 of the Eclectic Energy D300, D400 wind vanes, and an Eclectic Energy that was brand new last year, hydro generator. And I'm really happy to report that we didn't turn our diesel generator on for even 1 minute last year. That was 800 miles of operation, 7 weeks. And we would normally run the generator for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. So we were really, really thrilled with this setup. We are not ready to throw the generator off the boat yet, though, because last year it was very sunny and light in the Gulf of Maine. Our expedition base is Kittery, and last year our operational area was between Kittery and Bar Harbor. And I don't think that was a typical enough summer to throw the generator off, but also our schedule last year didn't let us sail slowly anywhere. So we did have to do a couple of our long transits under power, which obviously charged the batteries without using any of our renewables. So what I'm psyched to test this summer, I don't know if I'm psyched for this, but hopefully this summer will be an opportunity to test what happens when we go for 15 hours at 3 knots. So our hydropower will be giving less. If it's foggy, the solars will be less, and we'll see how that works. In addition to the equipment that we use on board American Promise, we are also trying to use techniques in our onboard practices and equipment to help lower the footprint. And the goal is to inspire people, sailors, racing and recreational sailors, but even people on land as to ways to lower their footprint. So you can imagine when we find 475 water bottles on a beach the size of 2 city blocks, where there are no ferries and no stores and barely any people, we don't use those. Not when we don't. In terms of Greywater, we're very cognizant of what we put overboard. We don't put any trash, any compost, or anything like that overboard, although our Greywater does go overboard. And so we teamed up with a company who makes ocean-friendly, biodegradable soap, and we provide the soap for everything on board. So hair, face, body wash, hand wash, all of that we've just provided, so we have sort of control over it. And again, it's a good point of discussion for the people that come on board. Obviously, we explain the way our Greywater system works is there's a tiny holding tank, but as soon as the float switch goes, it goes overboard. So no chemicals or anything like that go overboard. In the galley, we try to also be low footprint and consistent. And we do that, one, by eating vegetarian on board. It would be interesting to think if any of the large ocean-going military or Coast Guard vessels or research vessels would consider like a meatless Monday or something like that. We don't, you're laughing out of no way, we need our bacon. Is that the giggling up there? I know, I do appreciate the volunteers that come on board and we're like, yeah, we're dry and we're meatless and you have to wear your life jacket. So for some of the old sailors, that's a bit of a shock. At any rate, we do eat vegetarian on the boat. It's also simpler for us and less expensive. It's easier for refrigeration. And I'm not making this a whole thing. I am not starting a campaign, but we decided not to have anything with palm oil on the boat. And so I learned that basically all packaged cookies have palm oil. And so we instituted a homemade cookie-only policy on the boat, which was awesome! Homemade cookie-only policy. We had a lot of good cookies last summer, and that will stick, I have to say. And again, in a sort of consistent, subtle, under-ish the radar way, we're keeping our mission and our values intact. If I didn't know about palm oil, then I wouldn't worry about it, but I do, so I kind of felt the need to address it. In terms of activities, we are big believers in data. In fact, so much of what we're learning here today is driven by data. And one of the ways we are helping to understand the problem of marine debris to make it better and inspiring people and including them is through a big citizen science project, which is the Marine Debris Tracker app. Good for your iPhones or your Androids, free as well. And we use it, we encourage everyone we meet to use it, and we're collecting data to understand the problem better so that the solutions can be stronger. The way I see it, beach cleanups are good. They work. But beach cleanups with data are better. This is a tough one. In terms of bottom paint, we right now are using Interlux's Micron Copper-Free, the CF. And we've been happy with it. We're looking into non-ablative options as well. So by the very nature of these kind of paints, they do fall off into the water. It's nice that they're copper-free. So we're considering something like the Teflon type paints. There's one called Intersleek, and it's slippery. Literally, it's Teflon, and so the creatures can't stick to it, is the theory. The cost on that one's pretty tough. It's hard for us to get to where we need to be there. And so I want to summarize here with that thought, is that sometimes traditional cost considerations, we got to go somewhere in the middle. But that when we, and then our hope is the collective we, down to family level, from big boats to organizations to family level, consider everything from safety of our people and our assets to the money now and later, and the value now and later, and the cost to our environment and the cost to our mission, I think what we get is an overall cleaner environment and more inspired and engaged people. So I'm going to leave you with my favorite photograph from last year. I call this photograph Big Data, Little Data. And it gives me a ton of hope for the future. And actually, everything I've heard today gives me a ton of hope for the future. So thank you.